living green, I guess it depends how you define it, but both of our parents were pretty eco-minded, so we grew up as kids. I grew up on a farm.
I grew up in New York City. So I wouldn't say we lived green consciously. I think we just were always very careful about how much we were using and how much we were very conscious about not wasting and making sure that all good things go to good uses and not wasting energy and those sorts of things.
Yeah.
That was what happened in my house.
Same. Well, there's a number of different ways. We've got solar attic fans, which pulls the heat out of the attic so the house stays cool. And those are just powered by the sun. There's no electricity. They run off of a little small solar panel. We have skylights, solar tubes. So all throughout the house, we've got these solar skylights, and so we never use the lights inside the house during the day, even the rooms that don't have windows. No air conditioning. We don't use air conditioning. We just got, what are those called? Jalousies that we just keep open and let the trade winds. We've actually placed windows in the direction of the wind so that the wind passes through the house. When we did some remodeling, we placed windows in the right spot and that kind of thing.
We're also, we do the same thing with energy saving, which is huge. So we don't have a very high energy bill, even if, did you mention that we have photovoltaic and all of that stuff. We actually have solar power that supplements what we get from the main grid, but what we also do is really not use very much energy. And for a family of 3, almost 4, I think we have a pretty light footprint because of those things. We don't use our energy too much or too long, and again, that just comes from just knowing by habit to turn everything off if you're not using it, and leaving lights off and things like that. It just makes good sense, and we save a ton of money.
Yeah, because for our family of 3, it's us and 18-month-old baby. The electric bill for that unit is like $30 because we have solar panels that create a whole bunch of energy on the roof as well.
Yeah, and then with our daughter, we we use cloth diapers, and we use a different kind. We don't use a ton of wipes and things that you have to throw out a ton of things, and we wash her clothes. We use a washing machine, but we dry all of her clothes on the line. And it's really quite cute to see all of the little itty-bitty clothes along the line. And we do the same for our clothes as well. But the sun is the best. It's actually the best bleach, by the way. And it's the best dryer. And, of course, the winds back here in Palolo help a lot, too.
And actually, your clothes last a whole lot longer when you dry them on a line rather than in a dryer. Dryer is really destructive, so you end up having to buy more clothes because they wear out quicker when you put them in a dryer. So we only wash... we live in the back of the valley, so it's actually fairly cloudy back here. But we'll only wash on days we know when the sun's out in the morning, because we won't wash on days where we got to use the dryer.
Yeah. So I don't know if you all remember VCRs, but that's what we used when we were younger. And my favorite story that I'll remember forever, is that my dad came home one day and I had the videotape still in the VCR, and there was this little light that would tell you if there was a tape in the VCR, and he said to me, "Why is the tape still in the VCR?" I said, "Oh, I don't know, it's just there." And he's like, "But don't you think that light is burning energy?" And my God, Dad, what does it matter, And I will never forget that. And that's me. I'm not my dad. So if Josh even, any one of us is opening the fridge or anything, it's it's time to close the fridge, So we do things even down to unpacking our groceries pretty well. But it's easy. It's not something we have to think about too much. We do it now, and it's just the way we live. We've had for a long time a car that runs on recycled oil, cooking oil.
Yeah,
biodiesel.
It's biodiesel. It's made by Pacific Biodiesel. They're actually a company that's from Hawaii. They started on Maui, and now they're throughout the whole state. And they take recycled cooking oil from all the restaurants and refine it, and it turns into diesel. So we put 100% biodiesel into our Volkswagen Jetta diesel car and get about 35 miles per gallon on 100%.
Yeah, more than that, actually.
Yes.
Closer to 40.
If you accelerate slowly and brake carefully, you can get up to 40 miles per gallon, but she's better at that.
Yeah.
We got chickens, so we get some eggs from chickens. We grow some of our own lettuce and herbs. Herbs are pretty easy. But it's a lot harder when you get into like tomatoes and that type of thing because of insects. You got to be really serious about it. So we do as much as we can.
We also, with what we're not doing in the garden, we get from the tree. So, you're standing under an avocado tree, right? We have guava and banana, and fruit trees are just one of the easiest things that you can have that will be, very little work. And we get a lot of, we'll get, 100 bananas at a time. So it's easy and it's neat, and it seems to me that it's easier in a lot of ways than what most of us are used to. But we have a daughter. I think before that, we always had a sense that, we want to be able to live as lightly so other people can live and as well as you do. And so now that we have a child, I think I just feel that even more so. And wanting to make sure she has the things that we have is really key for me.
Honestly, it's like a quality of living thing. I mean, I think as the price of oil just keeps going up, and everything depends on oil. Everything depends on fossil fuel energy here in Hawaii, and we don't have any. It's not like we have offshore drilling rigs or anything here. I think the people who go green, I guess if you want to call it that, or adopt these practices that cuts their energy bill, makes them more self-sufficient. Every time the price of oil rises, our prices of food, the head of lettuce goes up in the store. So I think the people that start thinking this way early now and adopt, these habits and get the technology and the products, actually are going to save money in the long run. And that's what, for us, climate change is going to be a huge, huge issue for Hawaii. It's already starting to happen. And so we just want to live right so that we know we're doing everything we can for our daughter and for our baby that's coming, that we can look them in the eye when they're 20 and be like, we tried everything we could to really have a small footprint and keep the world in good shape for you. But then also, when they're 20, we want to be able to send them to college. And we're not going to be able to send them to college if we're spending $400 on an electric bill every month. I mean, it's not enough. We don't make enough money to not be green at a certain point. So, when you're paying, 35, 40, 30 bucks a month for electricity, you got a lot of money for other things that you really value. And so I think that's part of the reason why we do it.
That's part of the reason. Also, I mean, to be able to give that to our children is going to be key too. That way of living, I think, will help them in their long-term choices as well. And yeah, we tend to live in a way that's consistent with where we are. And so when I was in New York, it was about the subway. And now that I'm here, it has to look different. And you do that, and you do what you need to do. Also, coming from Jamaica, where you see that the resources are only so many. It just is a reminder that most of the world is living a lot simpler than we are, and many are quite content and are able to do it. And frankly, if we did a little bit less, they could probably do a lot more. So it's just about doing the right thing, and also not having dependencies. We talk about that a lot, and we have a lot of dependencies on things that are not from here, or not from the places that we're at. And that's always a bad thing when you talk about it, in a different context. We just don't think about it in the way that we live. It's not as hard as it looks. It's not as frustrating. I think a lot of people, when they see there's some reaction that it's just too difficult, or you tend to feel judged if you're not doing everything perfectly. And really, this is just about a process of just being conscious and mindful of how you walk through the world. So being green is not about the house and the car. It's also when you go to work, how with the choices that you make. I'm, printing paper on both sides. Those sorts of things, you can follow it through and just thinking mindfully about using less. And you find that you get a lot more out of that.
Yeah, a certain satisfaction to kind of incorporating, wisdom from, like Max says, from Jamaica, where people live really close off the land, and we've gotten away from that, and it's really fun. I just read this thing in the New York Times, actually, about how happy people are that work with their hands, and how we've evolved as humans to really take mental satisfaction in doing things with your hands. And a lot of this is that, making little improvements around the house that make it more green, or growing your own food actually makes you really, really happy. I think people forget that being involved in your yard or being involved in projects around the house that lead this way make you a happier person. So.